I have an important call. My Taurus sister's here.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bounce anybody. I had a minute. I was just pulling up all of the Erika Girardi's lawyers fire her documents.
And that's why I said it was like Mayday, because I needed to speak to you about this because I had no idea what I was reading.
I love that you put it in the universe. And I was like, I'm here. YouTube was like, Kempire's live. I'm like, oh, perfect. I'm going to read these documents. Hear you talk about it. Thank you, YouTube gods.
Right? Seriously. First of all, Emily, welcome to the page. I
Thank you.
All the time.
It's so nice to be here. It's so nice to see you. And I'm so glad I found you live and not just seeing you in the chat or on social media. So thanks for having me.
Of course. First of all, what was your reaction to this documentary before we talk about this whole breaking news?
The documentary, I could have dealt with a little less Danielle Staub. I didn't understand why she was just in there to throw shade, and that seemed to be what she was in there for. But I like
this woman.
Yeah, with the all white, trying to look like a mafia wife. I don't even know
that hair
with this. I don't know, but. They asked her, I'm sure she is happy to dish on other housewives because I don't think she's going to be going back to the franchise. I don't know what that relationship's like with Bravo, but
it's terrible.
Yeah, I would imagine after physically assaulting someone on the show by yanking a ponytail, you're probably not going to get invited back. No. So she's happy to find that where it lie. You know, can't hate the hustle, but I really like how much they showed of what the Rue Gomez family went through. They showed the voicemails. They showed the manipulation. They showed the struggle. Because I think without maybe paying as much attention, and I talk about this case so often, but the process they went through was the horrible injury that he suffered, Rue Gomez suffered. Yeah. His girlfriend passed in that gas line explosion. Then the years that it takes for the incident to go through the surgeries and the recovery, and then to get to the point where you get to a settlement. Then you're told that the money's coming and you're getting strung along with the money from somebody that you trusted and you're not sure how to go up against. Then you have suspicions about them. Then you have to find another attorney willing to go up against Tom Girardi when he knows at that time the DA of the county, the sheriff, the chief of LAPD, the judges on the Supreme Court. He knows everyone. So who do you find that's like, oh yeah, let's take that on. Then found a lawyer, sued him, won. Then he wasn't paying the judgment. Then they had to go and get the judgment perfected back to court to go and attach the property. I mean, the years that they went through is mind-blowing. And that I think they did a great job showing the story and then showing kind of the manipulative voicemails and stuff, being like, it's this whole shell game of stringing people along. It's the same voicemails we heard in that lawsuit from Edelson PC, where they attached the audio files on SoundCloud. We're like, go Edelson PC, give us the voicemails. Let's hear them.
I think, like you said, I think it was brilliant of them on how they pieced this all together, because I think it was effective in causing emotion from all of us watching it. But speaking of this whole situation, there was breaking news right before we went live. Can you explain to me what does this mean, and what does this mean for Erika?
I mean, absolutely. I haven't talked about this anywhere yet. I literally saw Twitter exploded. I'll probably make a short about it later, but Twitter exploded about it, and so I was like, "Oh, what's going on?" So I was pulling it up as I saw that you were live. So. Now we get to talk about it.
Do you need me to pull up the document so you can?
You can pull it up. I've got it on my end too. Okay. I'm just going to pull it up so I can split screen it. But if you want to pull it up so everybody can see it, you're welcome to. It is. Her attorneys are firing her as a client, is what's happening.
Oh, fun. Oh,
so there we go. And I think that deserves a shout out to Ron Richards on Twitter for sharing the document to a document link. He's going to be going after Erika. He is getting appointed in the other side. So this document comes from there's two bankruptcies, Girardi Keese, the law firm, and Tom Girardi, the person. Okay. So this is coming out of the bankruptcy of Tom Girardi, the person. Whether we'll see something get filed in the other side of the bankruptcy later today, Totally possible. I believe it's the same law firm for both, but that's why this is to Jason Rund. He's the trustee for the Tom Girardi person bankruptcy versus the Girardi Keese bankruptcy. Ron Richards is being hired in the Girardi Keese bankruptcy to go over money that might have gone from the law firm to Erika and Erika's company. This is the lawyers saying we can't be her lawyers anymore because the fundamental trust has been broken. So on the second page, what they say is the relationship of trust and confidence. I think it's at line like 12. Oh, keep going. Page 3.
Oh,
yep. No worries. There we go. Page 3, line 12. It's so easy when the lines line up. This is why the lines line up. So we can call it out and be like, okay, so page 3, line 12, this is what it is. The relationship of trust and confidence that's essential to a properly functioning attorney-client relationship has broken down. And in the good faith assessment of counsel, the relationship is irreparable. Ooh. This is either, this is, she's not telling us what we need to know to actually represent her. She's not telling us what we need to do our job. We don't think she is being honest with us.
Oh my God.
Uh-huh.
Emily, this is exactly, see, the YouTube universe gods needed you here to break this down.
Needed us to happen.
I brought this up and I said, guys, I have no idea what this means.
This is a big deal. You don't often see attorneys moving to withdraw. I mean, you'll see it if attorneys aren't getting paid and it's like, I can't keep representing this person. They stopped paying me 6 months ago and there's no hope of fixing it. But I am very surprised to see, I couldn't fathom that this is what we would see from her attorneys. Her attorneys still owe her a duty of confidentiality. They can't really say much more to the court. This is the magic legal words of the trust and confidence is broken. The attorneys didn't break the trust and confidence. The attorneys owe her a legal duty of trust and confidence. It's what you pay your lawyers for. They do not have trust and confidence that she is being forthcoming with them and they can actually represent her. I don't know what happened. The timing feels weird with the documentary yesterday. That might not even be part of it because they notified her of this yesterday is what this motion says. We told her yesterday we can no longer represent her. So these conversations were probably happening. It got to a point where it's clear that whatever issue is going on between the two of them, it's not going to be fixed. So they filed this motion with the court today. So her attorneys fired her as a client, or firing her as a client, and cannot represent her, and are telling the court we don't represent her anymore. Oh, the court doesn't have to grant it. The court can be like, I can't let you out of this. The court will likely grant it because there's room for another attorney to come in. But now Erika has to go find other attorneys, which is going to be time consuming and stressful because this bankruptcy is a big deal, and not all attorneys want to take on something that's so very much in the public eye.
So she's dealing with this situation. She's also dealing with her divorce. This cannot be good.
This has got to be tremendously stressful. Depending on the mood, it could also be infuriating. Like, I can't believe it. But if attorneys can only do their job if their clients are honest with them, you can't get somebody's back if you don't know what else is behind them. They have to tell you. The only one who knows everything that they're facing is Erika, and she can disclose everything that she knows to attorneys. They can't go sell it to the media. They can't go tell it to prosecutors. It is between her and the lawyers. But if she doesn't do that, they can't do their job.
What is your speculation on what's going on here with her? Why she's not being honest with her own attorneys?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, could this have been something else? Could she have been talking? They wouldn't leave for that though. If she was talking about her case elsewhere that was damaging the case, they wouldn't leave. This is a big move on leaving, and the attorneys can't ever disclose more why. I don't know. I don't know if she thought she would tell them just enough. I don't know if she thought she had disclosed enough, or if she's like, I don't want to talk about it, fix it, deal with it. It's the bankruptcy. I'm not involved. I don't know if she's taken a position that they can't legally defend, and she's saying, no, all of this is what it is. And they're like, we can't legally defend that position. And she's like, no, that's what's happening. And then it broke down from there. That's possible.
This is not a lawyer legal question. It's just a personal question. What do you believe in this whole Tom and Erika situation? Do you think she knows more? Do you think Tom really has dementia and Alzheimer's?
I don't know. And I try really to keep my opinion out of it because to the legal breakdown of the stuff, my opinion's really irrelevant. Mm-hmm. But the timing of the Alzheimer's is very suspicious. If I believe he has Alzheimer's, and I have either way, it's a problem. If he doesn't, then somebody's perpetrating a fraud on the court to avoid responsibility, and that's horrific and disgusting. But if he does, then people in his life have been either helping him cover up or saw the signs and said nothing. And there's potentially clients he's been meeting with and signing and advising on cases when he was maybe not mentally fit to do so, which is also horrifying. So either way, it's really bad. If he doesn't, then it's really bad. And if he does, it's also really bad. I hope that at some point the courts, as they're looking into all of this, talk to either the current clients that were talking to him, the other lawyers at the firm who were working with him, to see if they knew anything. I mean, for the conservatorship, that's not going to happen. But if there's potential criminal proceedings, it might. But what the conservatorship has done is done. They've put him under a conservatorship, and it is what it is.
You know, here on the channel, we like to cite our sources. So I cite you often because I'm not a lawyer, y'all. I'm not a lawyer.
I'm a lawyer. It's just so wild. The timing of the conservatorship is suspect, and that's part of this. But if he was trying to get along with this law practice and being like, oh, the money's here, the money's there. There's a lot of questions about it. I don't know what Erika knew. I think it's hard to believe that she didn't know at least about the Rue Gomez family, knowing that they were going through depositions, knowing that they were pursuing this very loudly and publicly. At some point, she had to have known about at least that case. Did she know the full extent? I don't know if we'll ever know. She sure didn't act shocked and horrified when all of the House of Cards came collapsing, did she?
No. And she's still very, very cold and stone-faced about this. One of the things, and when I was saying that I cited you, was when you stopped by Up and Adam and you were talking about, Adam asked you the question, whether or not, the California bar would be liable for some of the cases, if they would end up suing later on. And you said probably not. Why?
It's hard. So the state bars are oversight agency for attorneys that is there to protect the public, but essentially they're a wing of the court, and it's you can't really appeal them not doing it. Normally in the courts, if the courts get it wrong, you appeal it to the next court and say, Judge, look at what this judge did. They got it wrong. So the process, and I've asked other lawyers about it too. I'm like, what would even be the process for this? And none of us have a good answer on. It's a quasi-judicial branch of the court that oversees lawyers, but it's also a government regulatory agency. So I don't know if the rules would apply, and I don't know if you could find attorneys willing to sue the organization that licenses them. It becomes a very tricky thing. Now, excuse me, there are legislatures.
Take a sip. Go ahead, girl.
It's been a busy day. There are now members of the California legislature speaking out against it. And I think asking your members, if you're in California, your members of state Senate and state Congress to look into the California State Bar and raise the questions, because they control that entity. So it always feels weird to say allow the government to regulate itself. I mean, but that might be the first step about figuring out what can be done, because the state bar let people down in not taking this more seriously and not dealing with this. I mean, you saw it in the Hustler and the Housewife. Mess with clients' money, get disbarred. Like it's a monorail. It's a one-way street. Mess with client money, get disbarred. And the LA Times said there were over 100 lawsuits. How? Lawyers in law school, you're told, like, you mess with client money once, $5 goes missing, license is gone. Whoa. You put 4 pennies aside, you're going to be investigated. So for lawyers everywhere seeing this breakdown, you're like, wait a second. How?
For years.
How? For decades, not years, decades. For decades. These cases go back decades. So even if there is mental decline involved, that doesn't track back all that way.
Emily, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you've had a long day. You're my Taurus sister. I love you.
So good. It's so good to get to chat. I'm sorry that the throat's getting weird. I saw Beverly in the chat said that she had questions. I'm happy to say hello and then let myself out if you want. I didn't want to.
No, Beverly, you had questions?
Hey, my name is Miriam. I'm just joking about Beverly. My question for you is, don't you think this was, because I never felt the love between Erika and Tom. I always felt it was an agreement. How about, since he used to do that and it goes back, just like what you said now, it was part of a plot. Like when he met her, he said, hey, we will get married, no prenup. I'll fund your dreams to be an entertainer. And we're going to do this. Of course, it wasn't from the first time. But it's hard for me to believe that Erika won't be held liable. At least she has to file for bankruptcy because the money were loaned to her. So it's a loan in the Erika Jahoy, in Pretty Mess Productions. I don't know. But like, wouldn't she be liable? And don't you think that they might find something on her that she knew? And this is why the divorce between her and her legal team just happened.
I don't know about the breakdown with the legal team. There could be a lot that goes on there. Anything's possible. Could Tom have been like, hey, I'm going to use my third wife to essentially launder money from my law firm out into jewelry and paintings and what have you? Anything is possible. But if there's a paper trail, there's a paper trail. And the U.S., we know it's been referred to the U.S. attorneys for investigation, and they have the money to do that investigation. I always saw on the show, and again, it's a show, I saw admiration between the two of them, which seemed appropriate with their age gap and for his position as a lawyer. It never read weird to me because having the public persona he does, I wouldn't expect him to be much more showy on the show than he was with her. But stuff came out in the LA Times that he was showing her music videos at bar association stuff and that blew me away because the lawyers are like, what we're not here for. But if there are loans from the law firm to Erika's companies, those will have to be paid back. Those should go back to the bankruptcy court. It's what Ron Richards is being hired to track down. Now, granted, he'll get 30 to 45% of whatever he recovers, but that's lawyer fees. That's what he's being hired to track down. So if there are those loans, she could have to pay it back. And her doing that could involve her business filing for bankruptcy. But if there's assets there, that will have to be dealt with. So where the assets are, everybody's seen it on the show. It's not like all of a sudden the Jaguar ring can be gone. Someone is going to be asking, where is this stuff? And in the bankruptcy where they're going after her personal property, which is the personal side of the bankruptcy, the Axe law firm, Trazian, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly, was hired by the bankruptcy court to go after her personal property. Paintings, jewelry, clothes, things that can be taken back, saying, no, this is community property between the two of you. It was bought during the marriage and it is going into the bankruptcy estate and getting sold. So we're not done seeing them try to pull every penny out of Erika that they can. Does that mean she is criminally liable? Not necessarily. Does it mean there will be a criminal prosecution? Not necessarily. Does it mean they are going to try to fleece every cent back from her that they can? I think so. I don't think the attorneys have any empathy for her at all.
I have one last question regarding that. Isn't it, since it's community property, don't they own everything together and they are in debt together? If there was a prenup?
They own everything together that was bought during the course of the marriage that is not exempt. So
what about
the house was purchased before, so the house is his. Yes. But the house is getting sold and the house is mortgaged up 7 sides and down the other. Oh, the other property that was purchased, she's arguing, are gifts that are exempt. And under the rules of California, there is some room for gifts. What the attorneys that are going to try to come to an agreement with her attorneys, short of suing her for are going to say is not all of these are gifts. Not everything, not every piece of jewelry he bought you during the course of your marriage is a gift. And she's going to argue, they're all gifts. They are all mine. They stay with me. I think it would go a long way for her from a PR and fan standpoint if they're able to reach an agreement where she can say, look, these things were kind of our top gifts. This was our 10-year wedding anniversary, our 20-year anniversary. These things were actually gifts. The rest of this, put it back into the bankruptcy estate.
What about that accumulated as a couple? If he accumulated that, isn't she liable for half of it?
She's listed as a co-debtor on quite a lot of the personal debts. And I went through those on my channel. There's like racehorses and vet bills, and they weren't paying the gardener. Like, just pay the groundskeepers. What? So I went through that breakdown of debts on my channel. There's a lot of them. And she's listed as a co-debtor on a substantial number of them.
Oh my God. Miriam, stay on the line. Stay on the line, okay?
So
Emily, thank you so much. I look, I understand the voice thing. Trust me.
You sound lovely. I am like wrecked. You look refreshed and youthful. I am like haggard and
beautiful. My Taurus sister, I appreciate you. Have to come back.
I appreciate you.
I see the Jen Shaw situation is boiling over too.
We'll plan it. So much tea came out from her defense team.
We have to. And I'm so happy that we were able to have you on here because I had no idea. Had no idea. We will cite our sources in the description of the video so you guys can follow Emily as well. Emily, thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.